Welcome to Executive Access, created for motivated professionals. This is your home for real talk with executives about their career journeys, leadership practices, successes, and learnings along the way. I am your host, Jamie Tazi. Today, I want to talk to you about giving constructive feedback and specifically how to do that effectively so that others can really hear it and actually act on it, which is most important. In my coaching practice, I notice a lot of people struggle with giving constructive feedback. Commonly, there's some scenarios of why this is the case. First, some leaders just don't want to come across as nitpicky, so they let little things go. I mean, after all, it seems like a small thing, no sense in mentioning it. Many leaders also don't feel comfortable giving constructive feedback. This was me for a very long time. I'm a natural encourager. I like making people feel good. So I tended in the past to avoid giving any constructive feedback. The downside to letting things go is that issues fester and people get frustrated. People around you get frustrated seeing that others are getting a hall pass. And most importantly, when you let things go, you deprive the other person of the opportunity to improve because they might not have awareness of what's going on. Let me tell you a story about this. I was coaching one executive, and one of the things that we knew he had to work on was giving constructive feedback and sort of raising the bar for how he works with his team. He came in one day and he was really upset. He told me that a member of his team was let go in the latest round of layoffs. And when I asked him why this particular person, he unpacked and told me that, over the course of the past 6 months, many times people had asked him, what does that person do? He was in this job where he was the only one that had that job. What does the person do? What kind of impact is he making? Yet he never took that feedback and shared it with the person on his team. He avoided those tough conversations. And so fast forward a couple months later, when there were layoffs and impacts, he was the first person to be impacted because the rest of the organization, his CEO and others, had no idea what the impact he had was. So interestingly enough, he didn't give the feedback because he didn't want to be discouraging. He wanted to be kind. But probably the kindest thing he could have done was actually give that constructive feedback. Clear is kind. Would it have saved his job? I don't know, but he didn't have a chance to improve. On the flip side, if you're not a manager who struggles with giving constructive feedback, it's not sort of your natural way, other leaders have no problem sharing constructive feedback. And often, if you find yourself in this boat, those leaders come across sometimes a little blunt or too aggressive in their feedback. If the goal of feedback is, as it should be, to provide real ideas and an opportunity for people to improve, when you come across blunt and aggressive, people tend to shut down. They're not really listening for what you're saying. They're wondering, are you really for me? I don't feel like you're for me. And if I don't believe you're for me, I'm not going to listen to anything constructive, and I'm certainly not going to put it into practice. It's coming across way too judgmental. So I want to give you, if you find yourself on either one of these spectrums and really challenged about giving constructive feedback in a really good way, I want to share with you a framework that really revolutionized how I thought about my own leadership. If you want more in-depth information than what I'm going to share today, I would recommend that you read the book Crucial Conversations, which also really helped me. So in this 3-step framework, I first cannot emphasize enough that your intention is everything. A genuine desire to help others improve and to solve the issue is what we're going after here. And you have to get into that mindset. People can tell when you're for them and when you're not for them. So 3-step framework for how to give constructive feedback. Step 1, state the fact. It's observable. It's something that nobody can argue with. We often lead with the judgment. We will say, you're lazy or you're checked out. That's a judgment. A fact would sound like this. Today in the meeting, you put your head down on the table, and when your head wasn't on the table, you pulled out your phone and I counted 3 times when you were texting during our meeting. Those are facts. So that's step 1, state the fact. Step 2 is state how that fact made you feel. Or if you don't like using the word feel, tell them what you concluded of that. This is where your judgment comes in. So if the fact was you put your head down on the table and you were on your phone during my meeting, Step 2, the way that made me feel is that you don't want to be part of this team. The way that made me feel is disrespected. The conclusion I drew is that you really don't want to be here. Okay, that's your judgment. We've separated it out from a fact, and nobody can really argue with you on that point either. It's just how you feel. It's just your judgment, right? It's just your point of view. Which leads me to step 3. After you state the fact and you tell them how it made you feel, ask if you got it right. Ask a question. So you might say, is that what's really going on here? Do I have that right? So putting this all together, I saw you put your head down on the table. It made me feel disrespected. Was that your intent? Okay. The reason why you ask the question is you're opening a door. You're sending a message that you recognize that your judgment is just your judgment, and you're open to the possibility that the truth or their truth may be a little bit different. Okay. You're giving them an opportunity to explain. It doesn't change the facts. It doesn't change how you feel, but you're giving them an opportunity to explain. What if that person said to you, oh my gosh, Jamie, no, of course I respect you. I didn't want to burden you with this, but last night I was up all night with my son. He was really sick. In fact, my wife took him to the doctor this morning, and I was tired, so I put my head down for a second, and I kept checking my phone because I was worried. I kept waiting to hear what happened. Okay, so I'm so sorry. Of course I respect you, and I'm sorry that I showed up that way. Wow, what a different explanation for a set of facts, which can take the conversation in a whole new direction. Like, you know what? Let's talk about the next time that happens, take the day off, or I support you, or how could we handle this differently? But it still puts people on the hook to having to address the issue or the problem while creating some openness. So state the fact, state how it makes you feel, ask if you got it right. This 3-step approach revolutionized my leadership because I realized that I could separate out fact from my feelings, and I could literally say anything while truly staying in that place of being open to other ideas. Clear is kind, I always say. So I want you to go out there and practice. Use this 3-step framework. First and foremost, don't let anything go. I like to say it's like the TSA. If you see something, say something. It could be just micro bits of feedback along the way. Don't let things fester and build up. See something, say something. Use this 3-step framework and check that you're open to alternative conclusions. Drop a comment on how this practice is going from you. I'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to subscribe to the Executive Access Podcast, where you will receive new content every week. Thank you.